The battlefield is quiet for a moment, the air heavy with tension. In the distance, shadows of soldiers move closer, and at the center stands Jamie Fraser, scarred by years of war, yet unbroken. This isn't just another fight. This is the moment where a man's entire life, every choice, every sacrifice comes crashing together. Outlander Season 8 promises us Jamie's last stand. And with it, the question that burns in every fan's mind: will the Highland warrior survive his final battle? Or is this where Jamie Fraser has never been just another character on screen? From the very first season of Outlander, he became the beating heart of the story. A man torn between love and duty, past and future, peace and war. His journey began in the rugged Highlands of Scotland, where his courage and fierce loyalty first marked him as a leader. Time after time, Jamie fought not just for himself, but for those he loved, and every battle carved another scar into his soul. Through the years, we watched him survive brutal captivity, rebellion, exile, and the crushing weight of destiny. He stood tall in moments that would have broken lesser men. And at the center of it all was Claire, the woman who traveled through time to find him, and for whom he risked everything. Their love story wasn't simply a romance. It was a bond forged in fire, loss, and resilience, giving Jamie a reason to keep fighting, even when all hope seemed lost. Now, as Season 8 approaches, the stakes have never been higher. Jamie is older, wearier, but no less determined. His enemies are stronger, his responsibilities heavier. The world around him is changing, torn apart by political struggles and the rumblings of revolution. For Jamie, the final battle isn't just about survival, it's about protecting the legacy he and Claire built together. About ensuring that their children and the generations that follow will live free of the chains that bound him. But there is a haunting truth woven into this moment. Every warrior's story must end. Fans have long feared this, and the whispers around Season 8 suggest that Jamie's last fight may not be one he can walk away from. The thought of losing him is almost unbearable, but the promise of seeing him rise one final time, standing as the Highland hero he has always been, is what makes this final chapter so powerful. His journey ends. The night before battle is never silent. For Jamie Fraser, it is filled with the weight of memories, faces of men he once fought beside, cries of those he could not save, and the endless echo of choices that brought him here. The firelight flickers across his tired eyes as he sharpens his blade, not out of fear, but out of ritual. Every stroke against the steel reminds him of the life he has lived, the life he now risks losing. This fight is unlike any he has faced before. In earlier years, Jamie stood against enemies who wanted his land, his freedom, or his loyalty. But now, the threat is greater. It is not just one man's grudge or a single army's ambition. It is a storm of power that could swallow everything he has ever fought for. The lines between friend and foe blur, and betrayal cuts deeper than any sword. On this battlefield, Jamie knows he will not simply be fighting for survival. He will be fighting for the very soul of his family's future. The land itself seems to brace for what is to come. Mist curls through the valleys, hiding the movements of enemy soldiers. Horses stomp restlessly, sensing the bloodshed waiting on the horizon. Every tree, every stone, feels like a silent witness to history about to be written. And in the middle of it all, Jamie stands unshaken, carrying both the pride of Scotland and the fragile hope of the people who still believe in him. Yet, behind his steady gaze lies a storm. He thinks of Claire, the woman who crossed centuries to be by his side, and wonders if this battle will be the one that tears them apart forever. He thinks of his children, their laughter, their futures, and asks himself if his death is the price of their safety. These thoughts do not weaken him, they sharpen him. They remind him that every swing of his sword must matter, that this final stand cannot be just another clash of armies. It must be the battle that secures everything he has lived and bled for. As dawn approaches, Jamie Fraser readies himself. Not as a young warrior full of fire, but as a seasoned man who knows that every sunrise may be his last. And when the first horn of war sounds across the fields, he lifts his head, prepared to walk into the storm one last time. The first clash is not the sound of swords, but of silence breaking. A horn cuts through the morning fog, followed by the thunder of feet pounding the earth. Soldiers spill across the field like a wave, steel flashing, voices roaring. Jamie Fraser does not wait. He moves forward, every step steady, every heartbeat echoing louder than the cries around him. This is no ordinary fight. This is the storm he has carried on his shoulders for years, now crashing down all at once. The chaos is overwhelming. Arrows rain from the sky, blades ring against each other, and the ground trembles beneath the weight of battle. But in the middle of the storm, Jamie is a force of his own. His sword arcs with precision, cutting down those who stand in his way. He does not fight wildly. He fights with purpose, as if every strike is a promise to Clare, to his children, to Scotland itself. He knows that numbers may outmatch him, but spirit, that fire within him, has always been greater than any army around him. Falter, fall, and bleed into the mud. Jamie shouts orders, his voice cutting through the din, guiding those who still stand. He has always been more than a warrior, he is a leader, a man whose presence alone steadies trembling hands. His men follow not out of duty, but out of faith. For them, Jamie Fraser is not just a commander. He is hope dressed in tartan and steel. Yet hope is not enough to silence fear. For every enemy he strikes down, another appears. For every inch gained, another is lost. The battle shifts like fire in the wind, unpredictable, merciless. Jamie's body grows heavy, his movements slower, but his resolve never cracks. Even as blood stains his shirt and his muscles scream with exhaustion, he pushes forward. Because retreat has never been in his nature. In one breathless moment, he finds himself surrounded, blades closing in from every side. The world narrows to a single heartbeat, a single choice: to fall here or to fight until the very last breath. Jamie lifts his sword again, eyes blazing not with fear, but with defiance. The enemy sees not just a man, they see a legend refusing to bow. And with that, the battle roars on, fiercer than before. As Jamie Fraser writes his fate with every strike of his blade, the battlefield slows, not in reality, but in Jamie's mind. The clash of swords and the cries of the wounded fade into a distant echo, as if time itself hesitates. He stands at the center of chaos, his chest rising and falling with ragged breath, his sword heavy with blood and memory. Around him, men fight, bleed, and fall, but Jamie's eyes are fixed on something beyond the smoke. He sees Clare. Not in the flesh, but in his mind, the warmth of her touch, the steady strength of her voice. It is her face that steadies his shaking hand. Then comes the moment no warrior wishes for, the sudden break in the line. The surge of enemy soldiers pouring through. Jamie sees it instantly. If he holds his ground, his men will be crushed. If he falls back, his family's safety will be lost. The weight of generations rests on one choice. He has always been a man of both heart and duty, but now they pull him in opposite directions. To protect those he loves, he may need to sacrifice himself. The world narrows to that single truth. He remembers battles past the prison, Caldon, the countless scars that marked his body and soul. Every time, he survived. Every time he rose again. But this, he knows, feels different. His strength is fading, his wounds deepening. And still, he does not fear death. What he fears is leaving his family unguarded. Leaving Clare to walk through a world without him. The enemy surges closer, a wall of steel and rage. Jamie plants his feet firmly in the blood-soaked earth. His hand tightens around his sword, his jaw set with unshakable resolve. This is not about glory, not about pride. This is about love, the only force that has ever guided him. If his death is the price of their future, then he will pay it without hesitation. With a roar that cuts through the din of battle, Jamie charges into the breach. His men watch as he becomes more than a leader, more than a warrior. In this moment, he is a shield, a sacrifice, a living legend refusing to bow. The turning point is here, not written in history books, but carved in blood and fire. Jamie Fraser does not surrender. He chooses to stand, knowing it may be the last choice he ever makes. when the dust finally settles, the battlefield no longer feels alive. The roar of combat has faded into silence, broken only by the low moans of the wounded and the crackle of distant fire. Bodies lie still across the blood-soaked earth, friends and enemies indistinguishable in death. And at the heart of it all, Jamie Fraser stands, or perhaps barely stands, his body battered. His breath shallow, but his spirit unbroken. The final stand is over, yet its cost lingers in the air like smoke that refuses to drift away. For Claire, the sight of him is both unbearable and awe-inspiring. She has seen him broken before, carried him back from the edge of death more times than fate should allow. But this time feels different. The man before her is not just her husband, not just the father of their children. He is a figure carved from legend. His every wound is proof of his love, his sacrifice, his refusal to bend when everything around him was falling apart. The men who survived looked to Jamie with eyes full of reverence. To them, he is no longer merely a leader. He is a story they will tell for generations. Songs will be sung of the Highland warrior who stood when all hope was lost, who held back the tide with nothing but his courage and his will. Even those who once doubted him now see what Claire has always known. Jamie Fraser is not just flesh and blood, he is legacy. But legacy is not measured only in victories on the battlefield. It is measured in what comes after. The home he fought for, the family he shielded, the love he carried across decades and centuries, that is the true mark he leaves behind. Whether he survives this day or not, Jamie's presence will never fade. It will live on in Claire's heart, in the fire of his children's eyes. In the stories whispered around hearths long after his body is gone, and for fans watching, this ending is not just about war. It is about the endurance of love in the face of impossible odds. It is about sacrifice that echoes beyond death. Jamie Fraser's last battle is not simply the end of a warrior, it is the birth of a legend. One that will never be forgotten. Jamie Fraser's journey has never just been about battles won or lost. It has been about love that defied time, loyalty that never wavered, and courage that stood unshaken in the face of destiny. Season 8 does not simply give us a final fight, it gives us the culmination of a life lived on the edge of sacrifice. And whether Jamie walks away from the battlefield or falls upon it, one truth remains unshakable. He has already become eternal. For fans, this moment is heavy. We have walked beside him through the rolling highlands of Scotland, the brutality of war and the fragile tenderness of stolen moments with Claire. We have felt his triumphs and his losses, his laughter and his pain. To say goodbye now is not just to lose a character, but to release a part of ourselves that has grown with him. Yet in that sadness lies something beautiful. Because Jamie's story reminds us that love can outlast time, that strength is born not from power, but from devotion, and that true heroes are measured not by how they live, but by what they leave behind. So as the curtain falls on Jamie's last stand, we are left with more than sorrow, we are left with inspiration. We are reminded that every ending carries a legacy, and every legend begins with a final choice. Jamie's choice was always love. Love for his people, his country, his family, and above all, Claire. That is why his name will echo long after the battle fades. And now, the question rests with us, the audience. Was this the ending Jamie deserved? Or was it simply the ending he was destined to face? Perhaps the answer lies not in how the story closes, but in how it continues to live within us. Because Jamie Fraser may have fought his last battle, but his legend, his love, and his spirit, those will never die. And so, we arrive at the end. Jamie Fraser's path, long and treacherous, has carried us across battles, heartbreaks, and timeless love. His final stand in Outlander Season 8 is more than a conclusion to a character, is the last stroke of a masterpiece painted across 8. The Highlander who once stood as a young warrior is now a legend etched into the very soul of storytelling. But what makes this ending so powerful is not only the clash of swords or the thunder of war, it is the quiet truth underneath. Jamie's fight was never truly against enemies alone. His greatest battle was to protect what mattered most, his love for Claire, his devotion to family, and his belief in a future worth bleeding for. That is what elevates him from warrior to myth, from character to timeless figure. For us as fans, letting go is never easy. We are not just witnessing the end of Jamie's story, we are saying farewell to years of emotion. 2 nights spent holding our breath as fate tested him, 2 moments where his strength inspired our own. His story has lived within us, and even as the series closes, continues to echo in our hearts. Perhaps that is the true gift of Jamie Fraser's journey, that his legacy is not confined to the screen. It lingers in the lessons he taught us: loyalty, courage, and the enduring power of love. As long as we remember him, Jamie never truly falls. His final stand becomes not an ending, but a passage into legend. So, when the last scene fades and the credits roll, ask yourself this: was Jamie's destiny to die a hero, or to live on as one in our memories? Either way, his battle is ours now. His story belongs to us. And though his sword may rest, spirit will continue to fight in every heart that carries his name. Jamie Fraser's last battle may end the tale, but it will never end the legend.